The guard stood at attention outside the blue drawing room, his face carved from stone. He had been at his post for 3 hours without moving, without blinking, without breathing anything but duty. But inside the room, a child was crying. Princess Charlotte's voice cut through the heavy wooden door, small, broken, desperate. "I don't want to go back. Please don't make me go back." The guard's jaw tightened. He wasn't supposed to hear this. Palace guards were trained to be invisible, to be deaf to private conversations. But some sounds couldn't be ignored. "Charlotte, darling, you're being dramatic." That was Camilla's voice. Calm, controlled, cold. "I'm not." Charlotte's words came out choked. "You said something. You said it on purpose." The guard's hand flexed against his rifle. Something was wrong. Very wrong. What had Camilla said to the young princess? And why did it sound like Charlotte was afraid? If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button now. This story is about to take a turn that no one saw coming. Inside the room, footsteps moved across marble floors. The guard heard the soft thud of someone sitting down. Then silence. Heavy and suffocating. He glanced down the corridor. Empty. The other guards had been dismissed. 20 minutes ago, an unusual order that came directly from the Queen Consort herself. Only he remained, and only because his shift wasn't technically over. Charlotte spoke again, quieter this time. "My mother told me things. Before the accident, she told me to be careful." The guard's blood ran cold. Princess Diana, the name that still haunted these halls even decades later. Camilla's response was sharp. "Your mother isn't here." "I am, but you're not my grandmother." "You're not my enough." The word cracked through the air like a whip. Charlotte went silent. The guard could hear her trying not to cry. Those small gasping sounds children make when they're swallowing their tears. He shouldn't intervene. He couldn't. Palace protocol was absolute. Guards didn't interfere in royal family matters. They observed. They protected. They said nothing. But Charlotte was 9 years old, and she was scared. The guard had a daughter. She was 8. If someone spoke to her like that, if someone made her cry like this, ... His grip tightened on his rifle. The door suddenly opened. Camilla stepped out, her face perfectly composed. She wore a navy dress and pearls. Her expression gave nothing away. She glanced at the guard, her eyes passing over him like he was furniture. "The princess needs a moment alone," Camilla said. "See that she isn't disturbed." She walked away, her heels clicking against the floor in a perfect, unhurried rhythm. The guard stared at the open door. He could see Charlotte sitting on the edge of a silk sofa, her small hands covering her face. Her shoulders shook. Every instinct told him to walk away. To follow orders? To remain silent. But then Charlotte looked up. Her eyes met his. They were red and swollen, and filled with something that looked like hope. "Please," she whispered. "I need to tell someone. I need someone to believe me." The guard made a choice that would change everything. He stepped inside the room and closed the door behind him. The guard kept his back to the door, his hand still on the handle. He could feel his heart pounding against his ribs. This was dangerous. This could end his career. This could end much worse than his career, but Charlotte was looking at him with those desperate eyes. "Your Royal Highness," he said quietly. "I'm not supposed to be in here, I know." Charlotte wiped her face with the back of her hand. "But you heard, didn't you?" "You heard what she said." He hesitated. "I heard raised voices. She said my mother was weak." Charlotte's voice cracked. She said Mom couldn't handle being a real royal, that she was too emotional, too broken. Aegard felt anger flash through him. He forced it down. "When did she say this?" "During tea, before you came on duty." Charlotte stood up, her small frame trembling. "We were alone. She kept talking about how things are different now, how I need to forget the past and accept the present." "Accept what?" Charlotte looked at the floor. "That she's queen, that she's in charge, that what she says matters more than what my mother would have wanted." The guard's mind raced. This wasn't just a family argument. This was something darker, something that felt like manipulation. Has she said things like this before? He asked. Charlotte nodded. Lots of times. But always when we're alone. She's nice when Papa is around. Or when George and Louis are there. But when it's just me, ... double quotes, she trailed off. Why just you? Because I remember Mum. Charlotte's eyes filled with tears again. George was so little. Louis wasn't even born. But I remember her. I remember her voice and her laugh and how she used to read to me before bed. The guard felt his throat tighten. He had seen Princess Diana once, years ago, during a public event. She had smiled at him. Actually smiled like he was a person, not just a uniform. What else did the Queen Consort say? He asked gently. Charlotte wrapped her arms around herself. She said, if I keep talking about Mom all the time, people will think I'm ungrateful, that I'm causing problems for the family. She said the press would twist it and make everyone look bad. You're a child. You're allowed to miss your grandmother. She said I need to grow up. The words hung in the air like poison. The guard knew he was in too deep now. He had crossed a line he couldn't uncross. But something about this felt urgent, wrong. Like if he walked away now, Charlotte would just bury this deeper, and it would eat at her until there was nothing left. Does your father know she speaks to you like this? He asked. Charlotte shook her head. I tried to tell him once, but he got upset. He said I was imagining things, that Camilla loves me and I need to give her a chance. Do you believe that? That she loves you? Charlotte looked up at him. Her face was so young, so vulnerable. No. The single word carried the weight of years. The guard made another decision. Your Highness, I need to report this. Charlotte's eyes went wide with fear. No, you can't. She'll know I told someone. What? Charlotte's face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Charlotte. He crouched down to her level, breaking every rule of royal protocol. What will she do? Charlotte's voice dropped to a whisper. She'll send me away. Like she did with the door burst open. William stood in the doorway, his face dark with confusion and anger. Behind him, 2 senior guards and a palace official. What is going on here? William's voice was ice. The guard stood immediately, snapping to attention. His stomach dropped. This was it. This was the end. But Charlotte ran to her father, grabbing his arm. Papa, please! He was helping me. Camilla said, enough. William's eyes never left the guard. Officer, you're relieved of duty. Report to the security office immediately. The guard didn't move. He looked at Charlotte, then at William. Your Royal Highness, with respect, I think you need to hear what your daughter has to say. William's jaw clenched. You think you can tell me what I need to hear? I think your daughter is scared, and I think she needs you to listen. The silence that followed was suffocating, and then William said something that changed everything. Everyone out, William said quietly, except the officer. The senior guards exchanged uncertain glances. The palace officials started to protest. Your Royal Highness, protocol dictates I set out. William's tone left no room for argument. They left. The door closed with a heavy click. William looked at Charlotte, then at the guard. His expression was unreadable. What's your name, officer? Davies, sir. Thomas Davies. How long have you been with the palace guard? 6 years, sir. William nodded slowly. He walked to the sofa and sat down, gesturing for Charlotte to sit beside him. She did, still clutching his arm like a lifeline. Charlotte tells me you were helping her, William said. What exactly were you helping her with? The guard stood rigid. He could feel his career hanging by a thread. But he'd come this far. I overheard a conversation between the Queen Consort and Princess Charlotte. It concerned me. Concerned you how? The princess was distressed, crying. I heard her say she didn't want to go back somewhere. And when the Queen Consort left, the princess asked me to listen. She said she needed someone to believe her. What? He looked at his daughter. Is this true? Charlotte nodded, tears streaming down her face. Papa, I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to tell outsiders about family things, but I didn't know what else to do. Tell me what happened.
Everything.
Charlotte took a shaky breath. We were having tea, just me and Camilla. She was asking about school and my friends. Normal things. But then she started talking about Granny, about Mom. William went very still. What about your mother? She said people need to stop bringing her up, that it's been long enough. That holding on to the past makes me seem unstable. The word hung in the air like a curse. She said that to you? William's voice was dangerously quiet. Charlotte nodded. She said, if I keep talking about Mum, people will think there's something wrong with me, that the press will use it to hurt the family. She said I need to think about George and Louis, about how my behavior affects them. The guard watched William's hands curl into fists. She also said, Charlotte's voice dropped to barely a whisper. She said Mom wasn't strong enough for this life, that she let her emotions control her, and that I'm starting to act the same way. William stood abruptly. He walked to the window, his back to them. The guard could see his shoulders rising and falling with controlled breaths. Papa. Charlotte's voice was small. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble. William turned around. His eyes were red. You didn't cause trouble, darling. You told the truth. He looked at the guard. Officer Davies, you said my daughter told you she was afraid. Afraid of what? The guard glanced at Charlotte. She was staring at her hands, twisting her fingers together. She started to say something, Davies said carefully. About being sent away. She said, like she did with, but we were interrupted. William's face went pale. He knelt in front of Charlotte, taking her hands. Like she did with who? Charlotte, who were you talking about? Charlotte looked up at her father. Do you remember Aunt Sarah? From the staff? William frowned. Sarah Mitchell, the nanny. She wasn't just a nanny, Papa. She was my friend. She listened to me. She let me talk about Mom without making me feel bad. I remember. She left rather suddenly last year. She didn't leave. Charlotte's voice was stronger now. Camilla had her removed. The guard felt a chill run through the room. What do you mean removed? William asked. I heard them arguing. Sarah told Camilla that she was being too harsh with me, that I was grieving and needed support, not criticism. Camilla said Sarah was overstepping, that she was confusing me, making me think it was okay to live in the past. Charlotte's tears started again. 2 days later, Sarah was gone. They said she resigned. But she didn't, Papa. She left me a note. She said she was being forced out and she was sorry.
Ow.
William stood slowly. His face had gone from pale to flushed. Where is this note? In my room? Hidden in my diary? Show me. They walked through the palace corridors, the guard following at a respectful distance. Palace staff stopped and stared. A prince, a princess, and a guard walking together, it was unusual. Concerning, they reached Charlotte's room. She pulled out a small leather journal from under her mattress and handed it to William. He opened it carefully, finding a folded piece of paper tucked inside. The guard watched William's face as he read, watched the color drain from his cheeks, watched his hand start to shake. Papa? Charlotte asked nervously. William looked up. His eyes were blazing. Officer Davies, I need you to do something for me. Yes, sir? I need you to tell me the truth. No protocol. No politics. Just the truth. Do you think my daughter's in danger? The question hung in the air. The guard thought about Charlotte's fear. About Camilla's cold dismissal? About a nanny who tried to help and mysteriously disappeared. I think Davies said slowly that someone is trying very hard to control your daughter, and I think she's terrified to admit it. William nodded, his jaw set with determination. Then we're going to find out exactly what's been happening in my own home. But neither of them knew how deep this went, or how many people were already watching. William made 3 phone calls in the next 10 minutes. He dismissed Charlotte's current staff. He requested security footage from the blue drawing room, and he summoned Catherine. The guard remained posted outside Charlotte's room, now officially assigned to her protection. Palace officials had tried to protest, but William's tone left no room for negotiation. Catherine arrived within minutes, her face tight with concern. She barely glanced at Davies before entering the room. The door closed behind her. Through the heavy wood, Davies could hear muffled voices. Catherine's rising in shock. William's low and controlled. Charlotte's small and broken. He stood at attention, but his mind was racing. He'd been a guard for 6 years. He'd seen scandals, heard secrets, witnessed things the public would never know. But this felt different. This felt like something that could crack the palace foundation. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Davies turned his head slightly. Camilla was walking toward him, flanked by 2 of her private secretaries. Her face was perfectly composed, but her eyes were sharp. "Officer Davies, isn't it?" Her voice was pleasant. "Too pleasant, yes, Your Majesty. I understand there was some confusion earlier. In the blue drawing room." "No confusion, ma'am. I was following orders." "Whose orders?" She stepped closer. "Because I distinctly remember dismissing all guards from that corridor." "My shift hadn't ended, ma'am. I remained at my post as protocol requires." Camilla studied him. "How conscientious of you. Tell me, did you happen to overhear anything while you were being so... conscientious?" Davies kept his expression neutral. "I'm trained not to listen to private conversations, ma'am. But sometimes things can't be helped, can they? Thin doors. Raised voices." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The princess was upset. "Children often are when they don't get their way." "With respect, ma'am, it seemed like more than that." "Did it?" Camilla tilted her head. "And what would you know about it?" "You're a guard. You stand. You watch. You don't interpret." One of her secretaries cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should?" "I'm having a conversation," Camilla said coldly. She turned back to Davies. "Officer, I think there's been a misunderstanding about your role here. You're meant to protect the family, not interfere in private matters." "I believe I was protecting the family, ma'am." The temperature in the corridor dropped 10 degrees. "Excuse me?" Princess Charlotte was distressed. She needed help. "I provided it." Camilla's smile vanished. "You provided nothing. You overstepped. And if you continue to overstep, you'll find yourself reassigned to the farthest corner of Scotland before the week is out." The door to Charlotte's room opened. Catherine stepped out, her face pale but composed. She looked at Camilla, then at Davies. "Officer Davies is to remain on duty here," Catherine said firmly. "By order of the Prince of Wales." Camilla's jaw tightened. "Kate, we need to talk." "I think we do." They moved down the corridor, their voices dropping to fierce whispers. Davies couldn't hear the words, but he could see the body language. Camilla, rigid and controlled. Catherine, protective and unyielding. William emerged from the room. He looked at Davies. "I need you to come with me, sir." "Security office." Now. They walked through the palace in silence. Staff members stepped aside, their eyes wide. Something was happening. Something big. The security office was a windowless room filled with monitors and filing cabinets. The head of palace security, Commander Morrison, stood waiting. His face was grim. "Your Royal Highness," Morrison said. "You requested the footage. Show me." Morrison pulled up video from the blue drawing room. The timestamp showed earlier that afternoon. Camilla and Charlotte entering, the door closing. "We don't have audio," Morrison explained, "but we have visuals." They watched in silence. Charlotte sitting on the sofa, Camilla standing over her, gesturing. Charlotte's body language growing smaller, more withdrawn. Camilla leaning in, speaking directly into the child's face. Then Charlotte started crying. Not gentle tears. The kind of crying that shook her whole body. Camilla stepped back. She smoothed her dress, fixed her hair, composed her face, then she left. William's hands were shaking. "How long has this been going on?" Morrison hesitated. "Sir, I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm asking how long my daughter has been alone with someone who treats her like that. And no one thought to tell me." "With respect, Your Highness. The Queen Consort has complete access to all family members. We don't monitor internal family interactions unless there's a security concern. This is a security concern, William said quietly. My daughter's emotional well-being is absolutely a security concern. Davies spoke up. Sir, if I may. Princess Charlotte mentioned someone named Sarah Mitchell, a nanny who was dismissed last year. Morrison's expression flickered. Just for a second. You know something? William said. Morrison sighed. Sarah Mitchell filed a formal complaint before she left. She claimed she was being forced out because she objected to certain disciplinary methods being used with Princess Charlotte. Isolation. Verbal correction. Being told she was too sensitive, that she needed to be stronger. William closed his eyes. And what did you do with this complaint? I forwarded it to the appropriate channels, which were the Queen Consort's private office. The silence that followed was deafening. William opened his eyes. They were blazing. So my daughter filed a complaint about my stepmother's treatment, and you sent it directly to my stepmother's office. Standard protocol, sir. All complaints are handled by the office of the person in question, not anymore. William's voice was steel. From this moment, any complaints regarding the treatment of my children come directly to me. No intermediaries. No private offices, me. Understood? Yes, sir. William turned to Davies. Officer, you're now assigned to Princess Charlotte full-time. You report only to me or the Princess of Wales. No one else. If anyone anyone tries to interfere with your duty, you come to me immediately. Davies straightened. Understood, sir. Good. William headed for the door, then paused. And Davies, thank you for listening when it mattered. As they left the security office, Davies felt the weight of what had just happened. He'd gone from a standard guard to the center of a palace storm. But the storm was just beginning, because Camilla wasn't done. Not even close. The emergency family meeting was called for 8 o'clock that evening. William insisted. Catherine stood beside him, her jaw set. Charlotte remained in her room with Davies posted outside, and Catherine's most trusted. Lady-in-waiting inside. The meeting room was cold, despite the fire burning in the hearth. King Charles sat at the head of the table, his face drawn. Camilla sat to his right, perfectly composed. William and Catherine sat across from them. The tension was suffocating. This is ridiculous, Camilla said, breaking the silence. We're having a family tribunal because a child had a tantrum and a guard overstepped his boundaries. It wasn't a tantrum, Catherine said firmly. Our daughter was terrified. She was emotional. Children get emotional. She said you told her that her mother was weak. William's voice was dangerously quiet. That Diana couldn't handle being royal. That Charlotte is becoming just like her. Charles looked at Camilla. Is this true? Camilla sighed. I was trying to help her move forward. The child is 9 years old and still clinging to memories of someone she barely knew. It's not healthy. She barely knew her. Catherine's voice rose. Diana was her grandmother. A grandmother who died before Charlotte could form real memories. What she has now are fantasies. Stories. A fairy tale version of someone who was far more complicated in reality. Don't you dare rewrite history. My mother loved her grandchildren. I'm not denying that, Camilla said calmly. But you're letting Charlotte build a shrine to someone who isn't here. It's preventing her from accepting the present. From accepting me? Maybe she doesn't want to accept you, Catherine said coldly. Maybe she sees something the rest of us have been too polite to acknowledge. Charles raised his hand. That's enough. Everyone calm down. I will not calm down, William said. I have video footage of my daughter sobbing while your wife stood over her. I have a complaint from a nanny who was forced out for trying to protect Charlotte. I have a child who is afraid to be alone in a room with her own family. This is not about tantrums. This is about emotional abuse. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Camilla stood slowly. How dare you? I have done nothing but try to be a grandmother to that child. If she refuses to accept love, that's not my fault. Love? Catherine's voice was ice. You call this love? Making her feel guilty for remembering Diana? Telling her she's too emotional? isolating her from staff members who actually cared about her. I removed Sarah Mitchell because she was undermining my authority. She was telling Charlotte it was acceptable to wallow in grief indefinitely. She was 8 years old. William slammed his hand on the table. 8. And you thought the appropriate response was to tell her to stop feeling things? Charles stood. William, please. You're upset. We all are. But we need to approach this rationally. Rationally? William stared at his father. Father, look at the footage. Look at what actually happened. Stop defending her for 1 second and look at what she did to my daughter. Charles's face hardened. I understand you're protective, no? William's voice broke. You don't understand. You've never understood. You didn't understand what Mother went through. You didn't understand what Harry and I needed after she died. And now you don't understand what your wife is doing to my children. The room went silent. Camilla's face had gone white. I think we all need time to cool off. This conversation is going nowhere. This conversation is going exactly where it needs to go, Catherine said. Charlotte will not be spending time alone with you anymore. Not until we can trust that she's safe. Safe. Camilla's voice rose for the first time. You're acting like I'm some kind of monster. I'm trying to raise a strong princess. One who doesn't crumble under pressure. One who understands duty. She's 9, William said. She shouldn't have to understand duty. She should understand love. Camilla laughed bitterly. Love. That's always the excuse, isn't it? Diana loved everyone so much. Loved the world. Loved the cameras. And where did it get her? The words echoed through the room like gunshots. William went very still. Catherine gasped. Even Charles looked shocked. What did you just say? William's voice was barely a whisper. Camilla realized her mistake. I didn't mean yes, you did. William's hands were shaking. You meant every word. You've always resented her, even now. Even after everything. William Charles said quietly. Let's not know, Father. We're going to talk about this. Because I'm starting to understand that this isn't about Charlotte at all. This is about my mother. This has always been about my mother. Camilla opened her mouth to respond, but the door burst open. Davies stood in the doorway, his face pale. Your Royal Highness, you need to come now. What is it? William demanded. It's Princess Charlotte. She's having a panic attack. She's asking for you. William and Catherine ran from the room without a word. Davies followed, leaving Charles and Camilla alone in the cold silence. They raced through the corridors. Staff members pressed themselves against walls. The palace felt like it was holding its breath. They burst into Charlotte's room. She was on the floor, gasping, her hands clutching her chest. The lady-in-waiting was trying to calm her, but Charlotte's eyes were wild. Charlotte. Catherine dropped to her knees, pulling her daughter into her arms. Breathe, darling. Just breathe. I can't. Charlotte's words came out in broken gasps. She's going to send me away like she sent Aunt Sarah. No one is sending you anywhere, Liam said fiercely, kneeling beside them. You're safe. We promise. You're safe. But Charlotte kept gasping, kept spiraling, kept breaking, and as Davies watched from the doorway, he realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about harsh words or hurt feelings. This was deeper. This was damage that might never fully heal. The question now wasn't whether Camilla had crossed the line. It was whether anyone could fix what she'd broken. The palace doctor arrived within minutes. She examined Charlotte, checked her breathing, administered mild medication to calm her racing heart. But everyone in the room knew this wasn't a medical emergency. It was an emotional one. By the time Charlotte finally fell asleep, it was past midnight. Catherine stayed beside her bed, holding her hand. William stood at the window, staring out at the darkened gardens. Davies remained at his post by the door. Officer Davies, William said quietly, not turning around. You have a daughter, don't you? Davies was surprised. Yes, sir. She's 8. What would you do if someone treated her the way Charlotte's been treated? The question hung heavy in the air. I'd remove her from that situation immediately, Davies said. No matter what it costs me. William nodded slowly. Even if it meant going against powerful people. Even if it meant risking everything? Especially then, sir? William finally turned around. His eyes were red. I should have seen this sooner. I should have listened when Charlotte tried to tell me. I wanted to believe we could all be a family. That Camilla could be a grandmother to my children. You wanted the best for everyone, Catherine said softly. That's not a weakness. It's when it blinds you to what's happening right in front of you. Catherine stood and walked to him. We fix it now. That's what matters. William pulled her close. They stood together in the dim light. Two parents trying to protect their child from something that lived inside their own home. What happens next? Davies asked carefully. William looked at him. Next, we make sure Charlotte is never alone with Camilla again. We bring in counselors. We talk to George and Louis, see if they've experienced anything similar. And we have a very serious conversation with my father about boundaries. And if the Queen Consort refuses to accept those boundaries, William's jaw set. Then she'll have to make a choice. My children's well-being or her access to them. She won't get both. 3 days passed. The story never left the palace walls. William made sure of that. No press, no leaks. No public scandal. This was handled privately, the way royal problems always were. Camilla was banned from any private interactions with Charlotte. All future meetings would be supervised by William or Catherine, Camilla protested. Charles tried to mediate, but William held firm. Charlotte started seeing a child psychologist, someone Catherine personally vetted. Slowly, carefully, the princess began to talk about everything she'd been holding inside. The comments, the criticism, the constant feeling that she was wrong for missing her grandmother. Sarah Mitchell was contacted. She agreed to return as Charlotte's personal assistant with full authority to report any concerns directly to William. No intermediaries. No private offices. Davies was formally promoted to Senior Protection Officer. He's personally assigned to Charlotte by the Prince of Wales himself. The assignment was unprecedented, but so was everything else about this situation. 1 week after that terrible evening, Charlotte asked to see Camilla. William was surprised. Catherine was hesitant, but their daughter insisted. The meeting took place in the green drawing room. Charlotte sat on the sofa, flanked by her parents. Davies stood by the door. Sarah sat nearby. Camilla entered alone, her face carefully neutral. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Charlotte spoke. I don't hate you, Camilla blinked. Charlotte, please let me finish. Charlotte's voice was small but steady. I don't hate you, but you hurt me. You made me feel like something was wrong with me for missing Granny Diana, and that's not fair. Camilla's composure cracked slightly. I never meant to hurt you. And saying mean things about my granny isn't going to make me love you more. It just makes me scared of you. The word scared landed like a blow. I don't want you to be scared of me, Camilla said quietly. Then stop trying to make me forget her. Stop acting like missing her means I don't respect you. They're different things. William squeezed his daughter's hand. Pride and pain mixing on his face, Camilla looked down at her hands. For the first time since this all began, she looked genuinely shaken. I was wrong. About many things. I thought I was helping you be strong. But I see now that I was asking you to bury your feelings. And that's not strength. No, Charlotte agreed. It's not, can you forgive me? Charlotte thought about it. Really thought about it. Maybe, but not yet. You have to earn it. Camilla nodded slowly. I understand. You have to promise never to say mean things about Granny Diana again. She was important to Papa and Uncle Harry, and she would have been important to me. She was an extraordinary woman, Camilla said, her voice thick. And she would be very proud of you. Charlotte studied her grandmother's face, looking for truth. Finding something that looked genuine. Okay, Charlotte said finally. We can try again. But slowly, slowly, Camilla agreed. The meeting ended shortly after. As Camilla left, she paused by Davies. It's Officer Davies. I owe you an apology as well. You did your duty when it mattered most. Thank you. Davies nodded. I was protecting the princess, ma'am. That's what I'm here to do. And you did it well. After she left, William approached Davies. You started something important here. You spoke up when you could have stayed silent. You listened when you could have ignored. My daughter needed someone to believe her, and you did. Any father would have done the same, sir. William smiled sadly. Not every father, but you did, and I won't forget it. 6 months later, things were different. Not perfect, not healed, but different. Charlotte still saw her psychologist. She still talked about Diana openly, proudly. She still needed reassurance sometimes that her feelings were valid, but she was laughing again, playing with her brothers. Sleeping through the night, Camilla kept her distance. When they did spend time together, it was brief, supervised, and focused on Charlotte's interests rather than Camilla's expectations, and Davies remained at his post, watching over a princess who'd needed someone to hear her when everyone else was too afraid to listen. The palace never spoke publicly about what happened. No statements. No explanations. The press speculated, of course, but the family held firm, because some battles aren't meant for the world to see. Some victories are private, personal, and hard-won in the quiet spaces where children cry and parents finally listen. Charlotte learned something important that year. She learned that speaking up mattered. That being heard was a right, not a privilege. That fear could be faced and power could be challenged, even when it wore a crown. And she learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is tell the truth and trust that someone will believe you. Officer Thomas Davies made sure someone did, and in doing so, he changed everything.